we get going, let's see what FNGR really thinks of the furry fandom.
One of the most hateful videos I've seen in a long time.
Fake.
How do normal humans brush their hair?
Gay.
You fucked any animals?
I haven't.
Not living or dead, no roadkill or anything?
I have never had sex with any animals.
Okay.
Fake and gay.
Hey everyone, this
Fat and gay.
All 3,000 followers, how many subscribers on YouTube? 5,000, not a poppy fur.
Condescending and untalented. Before we get started, I want to borrow your attention for about 1 minute. Just 1 minute, I promise. Then we'll get to that sweet, sweet Kero stuff that we know that you guys are all here for and pretty much nothing else.
all right, so I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. You're a lot older now, right? And your life experiences are different. I would give you some advice not to repeat that around. There's a lot of...
Hold on, real quick.
There's a lot of tension.
Yeah, I just want to be real clear on this. Did you say when you were 24, you were in a sexual relationship with a 16-year-old?
A 16-year-old.
But it was legal in that state.
What state?
North Carolina.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting. That happens to be somebody else's state that I can't talk about.
We'll get back to that at the end of the video. That was Foxler bragging about banging a 16-year-old. What I would like to see happen. This is Snakething, aka Levi Simmons, aka Nelazar. Since the beginning of the Kero the Wolf case, he was the second person shown in the discussion with Kero. Here is the final update on Levi Snakething Simmons. A phone call was placed with Myrtle Point Police Department, 11/2/2018, at 10:48 a.m. Allegedly, the person behind the update spoke with Officer Harris, who has been working alongside Officer Dowdy on the case regarding Levi Simmons' Snakething. The MPPD phone, which I removed here because Lord knows I don't know if that's kosher to show or not, or even polite. There was a phone number here I chose to censor, as I don't wish to have people spam the police department with calls, but if you know where to look, you should be able to find it. Levi Simmons was released because the district attorney is still pursuing and deciding on official charges. If they were to file for the original charges of animal abuse, animal sexual abuse, and neglect, and had it continued to court, then Levi would be allowed to take a plea deal, and they would be unable to pursue further charges like child abuse, distribution, etc., based on the evidence they have. The police did have a search and seizure warrant. They were able to seize his devices and collect more information. There is a lot of evidence to go through and a lot of potential charges against Mr. Simmons. That's Snakething. It will take time for the DA and the police to come up with a complete list. But because the DA has not yet filed charges, they could not legally keep Levi in jail until the decision on the charges were made. This is why he was let go. The state is still pursuing his case, and federal authorities are also involved. He is not getting away scot-free. Once an official decision has been made, and the charges are set in stone, they will be moving forward. Now, I do have some thoughts to share on the matter. I've revealed that Snakething, aka Mr. Levi, is in fact not getting off scot-free. On the other hand, it's concerning to see, or hear, he's supposedly walking away for the time being. While there is a lot of relief, there's also room for growing concern. I'm also excited to hear that hope for a plea deal means that further potential arrests, which means this is just the beginning, not the end. I can also assume that the district attorney doesn't hand out plea deals out of the goodness and kindness of his heart, or hers. Naturally, I'm concerned just how good of a deal Levi will get for selling his friends out. It's refreshing to hear the state and the federal government are involved collectively, but once again, there are some concerns where these two parties haven't always worked together for the benefit of the common good and more out of personal interests. Politics being what they are today, I might have preferred this had been handled more at the local level. I'm confused about the wording of Levi or Snakething taking a plea deal only for the DA to release them. I'm certainly not on Levi's side, but if the DA can offer a deal and simply catch and release so that they can gather further and stronger evidence to strong-arm you later, that kind of feels in poor faith. Again, some of this information feels incomplete. I'm going to assume or hope that that's not the case. I'm happy to hear about the search and seizure warrant, but if Levi is in fact released, wouldn't Levi have the right to immediately reclaim the things that were taken away? Or does it simply mean that the police can gain a warrant for your belongings, and even if they let you go, they were able to hold those till, what, indefinitely? We can assume, naturally, that there are going to be some things on Snake's computer that would give cause to keep them from being released. But if that were the case, how is Snakething able to be released in the meantime? Of course, naturally, my knowledge of the law is limited. This naturally is going to be a growing and learning experience for all of us. That's where we are. That was September.
But I'm sure you're going to be just fine. I'm sure the police officers are going to love sitting down and sorting through this with you in person. Oh, because there is a police investigation. And not that bullshit one that was talked about on the day this broke, where people were trying to say, no, Kero went and talked to the police, everything's good. I mean actual officers sitting your weird little ass down and talking about you fucking dogs to death.
September 30th, 2018. It's been 1 month and some change. Since then, as of November 8th, sometime around 1:30 Central PM, Kero the Wolf, at Kero the Wolf, stated the following on Twitter. I know you all want answers. Please be patient with me. I am currently under police investigation. Know that I am taking this seriously. I sincerely apologize for the trouble that I've caused in the fandom recently. I apologize. I implore you to understand, and I will comment in greater detail. That's the first comment from Twitter. Here is after the pending investigation is over, I need some time to put something together. Thank you. Now that he's taking things seriously, now that we can cross our fingers and hope that they strap Levi Johnson down, legally, mind you, after a court case, after a proper arrest, after a guilty conviction, I would like to imagine that pancuronium bromide and potassium chloride are, shall we say, introduced into Levi's system, one to paralyze him, and the second agent will be injected. I'd like to imagine, so that I can close my eyes and imagine that there's just enough fight left in old Snakething that maybe we'll see a twitch or even a violent convulsion. And you might think that I'm being theatrical, unreasonable, but some of the aggravated factors to qualify for lethal injection include, but not limited to, offenders whose previous convictions of sexual assault or child rape. There are 2 instances of Levi with both of his cousins, and I understand that because that they happened at the same time, the term previous isn't likely to be legally sufficient, but I can dream. Again, legal disclaimer, I am not a lawyer. Additional aggravated factors include, to qualify for a death sentence, an offender committing a crime in an especially cruel, heinous, and depraved manner. Now, what is cruel and heinous and depraved are all subjective terms, but I've been left wanting for my faith in my fellow man. But if it came down to 12 jurors, I'd like those odds. If 12 jurors, 12 of Levi's peers, and I don't mean the zoo crew, got to decide what would happen after he's convicted. Continuing on, for further aggravated factors in deciding if the death penalty would be legally just. The offender put the lives of 1 or more persons in danger of death during the commission of his crimes. Levi, aka Snakething, shared personal information with an alleged sex offender named Sanji Naitavis. There are conviction photos floating around all over the web. I've even included some of them in my last video, Responsibility and Kero the Wolf. If having your image shared with a group that fantasizes about child molestation and murder isn't life-threatening, or at the very least to give a semi-creative district attorney something to work with, I don't know what is. Continuing on, the offender committed the crime for financial gain. There's certainly potential that Levi may have been paid at some point in time, with his computer being seized and in the hands of authorities. I would be far from surprised if something like this didn't show up within that ballpark. That's all speculation. Again, disclaimer. The victim would not have been able to defend themselves. Further aggravating facts that could help Levi qualify for the death sentence would involve that the victim would not be able to defend themselves while being attacked. I don't know the full details of exactly what happened to Levi's cousins. I'm sure the police do, and once again, I wouldn't rule that out. I'd like to thank you for your continued patience. I'll keep you up to the date. I'd like to get back to the Foxler matter at the beginning of the video. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. You're a lot older now, right? And your life experiences are different. I would give you some advice not to repeat that around. There's a lot of
Hold on, real quick.
there's a lot of tension.
Yeah, I'm just want to be real clear on this. Did you say when you were 24, you were in a sexual relationship with a 16-year-old?
A 16-year-old.
But it was legal in that state.
What state?
Wow. North Carolina.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting. That happens to be somebody else's state that I can't talk about.
No, it's like, oh my God, that's so horrible. Why would you rape children? I love that.
And both families knew, both
What
parents
the fuck?
knew. It was
Who's
all
this
good.
dude? I have been to NC. Don't give me that bullshit. Oh, fine. I'll link you their state statue on it. Have age of
Okay.
consent.
Holy crap, who's typing?
No, I have been in.
Sorry, that's me.
No, that's fine.
I have been when I was 16. I was with someone that was 28.
I mean, well,
so
I mean,
don't know.
but you can see why people would react to that in the like, oh, another grown man dating a fucking teenager kind of like they would categorize that in that same, notwithstanding the legal situation in that particular state, you can see why people would react to that in that way, right?
Like every state's different.
Well, I get that, but that's not what I asked.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah.
I've been sexually active since I was like 15.
Yeah, I've been a regrettable human being since the age of 14. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? What a good feeling to know.
I have a series of people I need to apologize to. Aquinas Audax, kothorix, Brony Inspector, Bloom from Xanadu, and despite having good intentions, I may have been in over my head. I need to address some things. This is Foxler. Friday, I did 2 videos in regards to the man. One was to brainstorm questions, and one was to interview the man. I was prepared for the man to either be a baby-eating monster or a really cool guy. I wasn't exactly expecting both? ? There'll be a link to the previous video on Fan and Frenzy down below, as well as a card here potentially. The video is called Hype, the Coming of Foxler, who wanted to speak up because some of the accusations from a channel called Xanadu Media. The gentleman behind the channel made a video called What the Fuck Foxler, or WTF Foxler. The video suggests that Foxler donated $50 to $150 to Kero the Wolf to get his side of the story. And to this end, I was willing to be sympathetic to Foxler's potential mistake. These things are addressed in Foxler Cometh Bad Idea Podcast 6. Foxler insisted that he gave $10 on Patreon to get Kero's side of the story via text, and the next month he canceled the pledge. Foxler insisted he just wanted to give Hero a fair shake and was going to rely on the police to handle things. And I did ask, what if Kero gets off on a technicality? So I'm going to just play that clip here.
It was specifically only for one person to know that information. Obviously, he didn't keep it to himself. And there was a bit of predictive behavior that was going to be part of that. So yeah, I assumed that he was going to do that. So was it $200? Absolutely not.
So
was it $10? Absolutely yes.
Well, that's... okay, well, is anyone else confused by that?
So the guy who's trying to keep, the guy was supposed to keep what to himself exactly? I think is my main hang up with that.
Yes,
the thing. Well, I told him that I was talking to Kero. He didn't like it. I knew he wasn't gonna like it, and he pretty much had 2 choices. He was gonna keep it to himself and not make a big deal out of it, or go tell the rest of the world.
Okay, so the thing is the thing is you talking to Kero, not the amount of money you gave.
Oh fuck.
Okay, cool.
Okay,
Cleared
so
that
he
up,
just
yeah.
completely made up the 50 and 150 is what you're asserting, correct?
Yeah.
So yeah, after meeting Foxler, the perception I had, at worst, was maybe he was a bit stubborn. But you could just as easily argue maybe this was the man's conviction showing. And from what I was told from Foxler, he said he wasn't even white, he was Thai. Honestly, after talking to Foxler, I'm pretty sure I'm more racist than he is. I tried talking to Blum from Xanadu. I did this before both of the podcasts I had that day. He passed both times. And the guy's name, he's the one who did the video, What the Fuck is Wrong with You, Foxler, or something like that, I think.
Bullet Premier?
Yeah, I think so.
I didn't fire him. He left.
Oh.
He says you fired your whole staff. Did that happen?
Yeah.
My staff is my Furry Raider staff is still active. And
Still intact. Okay.
So I'm like,
Between Blum not stepping in and Foxler just being on the ball, my assumption was that Xanadu was just filled with giant assholes and con men. We'll get back to that in that earlier apology. Hell, after or maybe during the stream, I remember reaching out to kothorix and saying, well, Foxler seems like a really cool guy. And Koth wasn't just skeptical, he was downright dismissive on the matter. My knee-jerk reaction was to assume Koth was just overly being safe, burnout from all the extra drama that seems to be floating around the man. What the fuck could he possibly know? I had a lot less wear and tear on me, and I chalked it up to, well, I just had more gas in the tank. Koth's ship had sailed. I mean, he did pseudo-leave the fandom. It's a good watch, by the way.
When I first joined the community about 15 years ago, I was 14 years old. Almost immediately upon entering the community, I was tempted into online sexual encounters by older men. They do things like roleplay cuddling to groom me into getting used to increasingly sexual situations. At the time, I wasn't bisexual and had no interest in men, so they'd use furry female characters as their avatars so I'd have less of a problem with it. This would change over time as they introduced me to their other characters. It would start with sexual roleplay with their characters, but eventually led to talk about sex in real life, culminating in wanting to meet up for real-life sex. I was always smart enough to tell them no, which usually led to an argument, anger, and the ending of the friendship. This didn't happen just once. This happened numerous times over the years to me, between the ages of 14 and 17. Of course, I was just a horny kid without the knowledge or life experience to know what was going on, so I never reported any of those people, and it's been too long for me to remember their names at this point.
There's a lot more I agree with in that video than I don't. I asked Foxler about the Furry Raiders, that's his group, do they support zoophilia, aka bestiality? And Foxler's response was that all furry on some level is bestiality, but assured me he was not into real animal.
Of Maz and stuff like that. So like I think that's pushing it.
Okay.
I don't see that as animal abuse. If you're just taking dogs like yawning or taking.
But you wouldn't do it yourself, is what you're saying.
No. I wouldn't do it
Okay.
myself.
No, that's perfectly fucking legit here. So let's get back to Dog Patch Press here. Has a lot of interesting things to say about you. Do you think it's okay in response to, say, punching a communist?
No.
Okay.
Nope, it should be.
Took the moral high road.
If I had to be critical of the stream of Foxler, I think he dotted all the I's, he crossed all the T's. And after what no doubt was 2 hours plus talks, if you count both streams, a fairly long day, I was getting closer and closer to winding down towards bed, well after both streams when Foxler admitted he had fucked a 16-year-old. I want to state this again. I didn't know anything about this. My people didn't know anything about this. kothorix, Bloom didn't tell me anything about this. And Bloom's response was, well, gee, guy, why didn't you Google it? Like, till now, all I ever heard that Foxler was, 1, insane from kothorix, and that's more his videos. That's also something that Foxler has jokingly admitted to. 2, that he was a Nazi, and that's from Dogpatch Press. And in my opinion, I think he's just a cringy LARPer as far as that goes. 3, from Bloom's video, he's kind of a drama queen and an attention whore. Now, to be fair, it should have been my responsibility to dig deeper. But in the Brony fandom, if someone had pedophilic allegations, and let's just suppose the people with the information hated your guts, they'd still give you a heads up if you were about to make a mistake, like talk to the wrong person along these lines. Apparently, this is something that furries don't do. When I asked Blum about a girl, he said, you mean the underage one that Foxler made advances on. I offered the audio that Brony Inspector had made, and Blum accepted it happily. Here is a tweet supposedly made from the 16-year-old's mom. Foxler insists that in North Carolina that a 24-year-old can sleep with a 16-year-old with the parents' consent. I'm not a legal expert, but of the websites I could find that cited state law for North Carolina, which wouldn't count as primary sources in all likelihood, the age of consent in North Carolina is 16, but there is a 4-age rule. Before adulthood, again, not a legal expert, do your own legwork, that the two parties may be no more than 4 years apart. So for example, if you had one person being 16 and the other being potentially 19, perhaps even 20, again, don't cite me. Foxler stated he was 24. No one tricked him into giving this confession. I was hoping he was going to say, just kidding, but that never happened either. So here I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Brony Inspector did hit record and did get Foxler to repeat himself. But there is one more person who helped me with doing what was right. I hesitated to act immediately after this happened. I was a bit shell-shocked. I had already added Foxler to the room that I had, one of my side rooms. When he gave his confession about a 16-year-old, I attempted to pass the buck off, admittedly, to someone else who heard the confession so that he could be kicked from the room. And due to Skype's latest versions being kind of ass, they were unable to do so. I could have done it immediately. I admit that I paused when I shouldn't have. When the call started in the side room, I noticed Pastal Opal joined and I directed her to avoid Foxler. She asked why and I directed her to ask Brony Inspector. Upon finding out that she gave me a spirited request on why in the fuck was Foxler still in the chat. In my full and complete credit, I didn't have an answer. I didn't have any way to justify at that point, and despite whatever Opal's hangups would have been in the past, without hesitation she made the right decision that I failed to make. It was obvious. There was no further room for discussion, and despite there being only a short period of time, this shouldn't have been something that took as long as it did. It definitely could have been handled faster. So I'd like to apologize to my fans, friends, and community for not being more on the ball and acting more quickly. Dear Foxler and SDX Darkus of the Furry Raiders, this isn't about political leanings. Update. As of Saturday, November 11th, 2018, one day after the stream, my peers have asked around. Yes, it does seem that a 24-year-old might be able to have consensual sex with a 16-year-old in North Carolina. Again, I am not a legal expert, but the number 16 kept popping up in legal citations for North Carolina, not to mention that the people me and my group found that had legal know-how on the matter seemed to agree, unfortunately, on that matter, regretful as it was. However, my group would never have suffered this sort of behavior, and would boot my sorry ass if I chose to back Foxler. And I agree they should. Beyond morality and legality, it's kinda cringy for you to put it before, and unfortunately we didn't have this part where you claimed to have sex with a 16-year-old and said that it was the best sex that you ever had, Foxler. I was more than willing to believe that Foxler had just got a bad deal on so many other matters. But this one was about a kid, is kind of a sticking point. I don't wish to throw around the term pedophile, all willy-nilly like, but you had this "gee mom, look at what I did" about having intercourse with a 16-year-old. My comments section is naturally open to you. I'm at a loss at how to explain this one, but good luck. I'll be waiting.
Because if this is a spiel, you are god tier, man. Like, my god, this sounds very reasonable.
Yeah. No, and he wanted to fake a coup because I've been accused of fucking my dog supposedly because I wrote some stupid shit on my journal when I was like 18.
So you made an inappropriate joke and it came back to bite you.
I made a lot of weird shit. I was talking about me having sex with a whole bunch of weird people that never happened.
Okay.
Like I said I was having sex with like 13-year-olds, my dog, and my mother, but none of that shit happened. None of that shit happened.
But you never did that.
I never did that. Holy crap, that would be weird.